Deterring Russian aggression is a matter of survival for Poland. At the same time, the appropriate means of deterrence remains a sensitive topic. Polish President Karol Nawrocki brought up this difficult issue to begin the conversation about Poland pursuing nuclear weapons. The path of Poland developing its own nuclear potential, of course with respect for all international regulations, is the path we should take. Will the Americans allow us to do so? I don't know, but we must move in this direction so that we can start working. We are a country right on the border of an armed conflict, and we know what the aggressive, expansionist Russian Federation's attitude towards Poland is. The key question, is this the right moment to take such an initiative? This is a very important initiative. Poland should declare its aspirations to have its own nuclear protective umbrella. The question is whether it should be its own or shared with the Americans. There is such a thing as a nuclear sharing program. Poland has been seeking this for years, and if other countries can participate in this program, and Poland is located in a very important geostrategic location, it is obvious that Poland should declare such ambitions. So it is a very good initiative by President Nawrocki to raise this issue, especially since it has been reprinted in the press and media around the world. Bloomberg quotes President Nawrocki. The president believes that Poland should rely on its own nuclear system. Russia is openly pursuing an expansionist foreign policy. Its doctrines include a relatively low threshold for the use of nuclear weapons, and it uses fear as a tool of pressure. Therefore, given its geographical and geopolitical location, Poland should strive to develop a deterrent capability. Russian media, meanwhile, chooses to underscore President Nawrocki's confrontational tone. The American publication Politico notes that this idea is in line with the growing tendency of European countries to strengthen their own defensive capabilities. His comments come amid a growing debate in several European countries about developing their own nuclear weapons, in the light of growing threats from Moscow and an erosion of trust in the United States. If a country has nuclear potential, it is clear that its position on the international stage and its national security are completely different. As such, the idea put forward by President Nawrocki in the context of our geopolitical situation is an incredibly important matter. Of course, all this is also conditioned by our relations with the United States. Nevertheless, let us remember that in this part of Europe, a weak country will not survive. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz officially announced Germany's own nuclear umbrella in cooperation with France at a recent security conference in Munich.
Ich habe mit dem französischen Präsidenten Emmanuel Macron erste Gespräche über europäische nukleare Abschreckung.
I have begun talks with President Emmanuel Macron on a European nuclear deterrent system. And let me be clear, we want to do this in accordance with the law. For Poland, the road to this is still very long and would require the consent of virtually all parties on its internal political scene. Possessing nuclear weapons in the current environment is an excellent deterrent, but this is an extremely important and sensitive issue that must be discussed carefully. Firstly, so that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The international consequences must not be too serious for us. And secondly, we must be aware that we do not currently have the necessary industrial and technological potential, not only in terms of producing this type of weapon, but we also do not have the missiles that would carry such weapons over the necessary distance. The first step could be the so-called nuclear sharing, that is, storing elements of American nuclear weapons on Polish territory. The Alliance's Programme for Assistance and Cooperation in the Transfer and Use of Nuclear Weapons provides the United States to make a small batch of nuclear weapons, approximately 100 B-61 nuclear bombs, available to selected North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries. Currently, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Turkey and Germany participate in this programme. Poland's opportunity lies in the very good relations with Washington Poland has through President Nawrocki. For me, building Poland's security, even on the basis of nuclear potential, is the direction that I support. For this to happen, Poland's first priority should be close relations with the United States. Germany would like a new balance of power in Europe. This was confirmed by Chancellor Merz at the Security Conference in Munich. The aim is to build Berlin's hegemony and limit the United States' influence in Europe. In Article 42 of the Treaty on the European Union, we commit ourselves to mutual assistance in the event of an armed attack in Europe. We must clearly define how we want to organise this at the European level, not as a substitute for NATO, but as a self-sufficient, strong pillar of the alliance. I have begun preliminary tasks with the French President Emmanuel Macron on European nuclear deterrence. Reading between the lines, this is a clear signal that Germany will seek to push the United States out of Europe and strengthen its own position on the continent. Merz quoted Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski to justify the new policy direction. Let me quote what Radek Sikorski said to us Germans 15 years ago. I fear German power less than German inaction. This is also part of our responsibility under our constitution, our history and our geographical location. We accept this responsibility. Let us recall that Radosław Sikorski made this statement in Berlin in 2011, at a time when the Eurozone was in crisis and both the German and Polish governments were pursuing the infamous diplomatic reset with Russia. Today, Sikorski's words have been used by the German Chancellor to justify his own geopolitical agenda in Europe, an agenda that is dangerous for Polish interests. Cooperation with Russia is part of the internal political DNA of the German state. The US cannot allow this, which infuriates politicians in Moscow and Berlin. Poland is the geographical wedge between Germany and Russia, and with external support, it would be able to keep these two countries, Germany and Russia, apart. However, instead of seeking a close alliance with the United States, Donald Tusk's government, among them Radosław Sikorski, preferred to align themselves with Berlin's geopolitical interests. There is an anecdote among diplomats that a diplomat thinks twice before saying nothing. I have the impression that Radosław Sikorski speaks twice before he even starts thinking. We remember how the Russians used his statements. Today we see how the Germans are using his statements. So this man is really not in the right place. Diplomats do not behave like this. But the words spoken by Radosław Sikorski in 2011 were not a slip of the tongue, but a view he consistently proclaimed. The Minister of Foreign Affairs repeated exactly the same thing during his exposé last year. When, at the height of the Eurozone crisis in 2011, I said that I feared German inaction more than German strength, this chamber voted to dismiss me. Today, too, there are insinuations, including in this chamber, that the Polish government represents some foreign interests. These ideas are laughable. Today, I would say the same thing, only more bluntly. As long as Germany is in the European Union and NATO, I fear German aversion to armaments more than I fear the German army. According to the Polish opposition, Sikorski's words echo a deep insecurity towards a West that has characterized Polish liberal thought since at least the 1990s. Over the last 30 years, Poland has made such enormous economic progress and developed so much that it can absolutely be treated as an equal. And we should expect this and even more. We should strive to pursue these interests beyond what we are currently achieving economically, because we are ambitious and should be even more ambitious. Therefore, I expect the same from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and not such civility toward decisions made by bureaucrats in Brussels or Berlin. One of the tools for expanding German influence in Europe is the SAFE programme. The importance of Poland's acceptance of this plan for Berlin is evidenced by the presence of German Ambassador Miguel Berger in the Polish Parliament when MPs voted on the SAFE bill. Ambassador Berger, you were present in the Parliament when it made a very important decision. This is a repeat of a very bad tradition, a tradition of foreign, usually Russian or German ambassadors, participating in the deliberations of the Polish Parliament at very bad moments in our history. Please do not reference this tradition. The presence of an ambassador from another power in Parliament is more than just a bad historical association. It is clear evidence that Berlin sees its vital interest in Poland's adoption of the SAFE programme. If the ambassador did not know what was on the Polish SAFE list of projects, he would not be in the gallery, because what would he be watching over? That the Polish arms industry would be strengthened? No. He had information that some companies were waiting in line for these funds. Importantly, information about what the SAFE money will be spent on is being hidden from Polish citizens. At the same time, there are many indications that the German ambassador possesses this knowledge. This confirms fears that the borrowed billions of euros would ultimately go to German companies and not to Polish ones. A few days ago, Ambassador Berger wrote on social media, an important visit by Vice-Chancellor Lars Klingbeil to Airbus in Warsaw. With around 1,000 employees in Poland and a number of important contracts, such as the A220 for LOT, Airbus continues to grow. In the face of huge investments in European defence, including the 150 billion SAFE programme, from which Poland will receive almost 44 billion, companies such as Airbus will play a key role in building a stronger European defence industry base. How is it possible that the list of projects is secret? But when the German ambassador arrives here after visiting the finance minister, he goes to Airbus and writes on social media that Airbus in Warsaw will be part of this project. The list is confidential, so how does he know? Interestingly, the current Minister of Internal Affairs and Administration, Marcin Kierwiński, was associated with EADS, now Airbus, in the past, working there from 2001 to 2007.
The upcoming talks in Geneva on ending the war in Ukraine may look completely different than previously envisioned. This is due to changes in the Russian negotiating team, the recent Munich Security Conference, and new declarations of Western support for Ukraine. The issue of territorial claims is not up for discussion. Kyiv's tough stance will not change. Both Brussels and Washington are aware of this.
We can't withdraw from our territory or exchange our territory, one piece to another piece of our territory.
In Munich, the president of Ukraine sought clear declarations of continued support. It is to flow in a wide stream regardless of the ongoing talks.
So we all welcome the progress the US is making to bring peace. But for now, the war continues. And Ukrainian defiance must be matched by our determination. And importantly, must be matched by big new commitments to Ukraine for 2026.
However, it is clear that while military support translates into measurable results, sanctions alone have varying, if not meager, effects. Moscow circumvents them with the help of Asian countries, and European goods still find their way onto the Russian market via roundabout routes. In response to Russia's aggressive war, we have imposed far-reaching sanctions to curb the Russian war machine. I want to make this clear today. Circumventing sanctions and supporting Russian aggression directly threatens the security interests of the European Union. The best example is an analysis by Reuters, which shows that tens of thousands of new Western-brand cars are entering Russia through a network of intermediaries in China. The new cars are formally registered there as used and then exported outside the official channels of the manufacturers, often with zero mileage and factory security measures in place for transport. Today, a large proportion of our customers want to buy and drive only Western brands such as Mercedes. However, we can currently only import them through parallel import. Russian dealers admit outright that the market is functioning, albeit in a gray zone. At the same time, Chinese brands are rapidly taking the place of Western manufacturers, and Moscow is trying to build its own industrial base. There is one problem with the latter. Even the Kremlin's symbolic projects are beginning to fall apart. The government has just suspended the development of the luxury Urus car brand, a project created as a showcase for Russia's technological independence. Officially, this is due to a change in budget priorities. Less officially, it is due to the costs of war and a lack of funds. This illustrates a mechanism that will also be key in the Geneva talks. Russia continues to find ways to circumvent sanctions, but at the same time, it is paying increasingly clearly for its economic isolation and technological disconnection from the West. It is the effectiveness of this economic pressure that may determine the Kremlin's real room for maneuver at the negotiating table in the coming months.